Say when. Okay. We will start. This is about 6 lines from the bottom. The line begins with the word big day. So it's the yellow dot line. And the difficulty we are, so to speak, struggling with is how is it that Chochmah, on the one hand, is in the category of re-iya. He's there. Oops. Okay, there he is. Okay. Re-iya means Shlomo, you there? Looks like he's there. Yeah. Okay. Re-iya, as we discussed, is possible only in relating to the etzem. You can only see something that's real. You cannot see an idea, an inference. Then at the same time we say that Chochmah is actually a idea sichlis. There's a seichel element in the Chochmah. Seichel means that you know it because of some insight. I was thinking to myself that one very clear way to demonstrate the difference is the following, which we discussed many times. You can stand outside and look through the window and see everything that's going on in the room and observe every detail. And then another situation of similar capacity but greater, in that if you step inside the room, when you're inside the room, it's an interesting thing what happens at that point. On the one hand, you're limited to what you can see as far as details in the room, because you can only see in one direction. When you're outside, you can observe the entire panorama. When you're inside, you can only see that which you're directed to see. On the other hand, in being inside, you relate automatically and totally to everything that's in the room. And you're much more aware, much more experiencing the presence of the room and everything that's in the room than when you're observing it from outside. One way of to demonstrate and to conceptualize the difference between Chochmah and Binah is exactly this. Binah is an observer. And it's a very, very profound, very thorough observer. But nonetheless, you don't have the reality of what you're observing. Where inside, Chochmah is an insider. As an insider, you experience what there is to it, what there is in there, not just observing it. This is clearly a categorical difference. Speaking in terms of relating to that which is, going back to the muscle, to that which is in the room, translating that in the nimshal. Speaking of the relating to the divine presence, as it is in the Chochmah or as it is in the Binah. It's categorically different. So coming back, I have a comment, an important comment to observe the discussion on the blog, but I'll hold off for a moment. That this Indian, the Rebbe says, okay, but the little AYIN Aleph is, okay? Now begin to talk about Binah. In truth, however, it's impossible to say that the whole Indian is only miyud ho'ir. And this miyud ho'ir, as he said, not miyud ho'ir from Chochmah to Binah, but miyud ho'ir within the Chochmah itself. And we explained what is miyud ho'ir between the Chochmah itself. Miyud ho'ir between the Chochmah itself is when you are inside the room and the host is there, but the host is turning away, is not talking to you. So there's much less impact of his presence. So we're suggesting that perhaps this would be the mokeh, this would be the basis for being. We clearly identify the difference between Chochmah and Binah, even on this motion. Binah requires to make sense, it knows only by identifying what it sees. Chochmah does not need to identify. It is right there. So it's a completely different relationship. And from Chochmah into Binah, we say is an element of miyud ho'ir, it's just a reduction of the oir. And we explained yesterday in other times, meaning from oir, miyud ho'ir. So the Rebbe says, however, in truth, okay, 3 lines on the bottom. It's impossible to say this. Why? Sheharei, since that, ein zeh miyut levat. This is not, meaning, from Chochmah into Binah, from Chochmah and from re-iya into Seichel, is not merely an element of miyut, a reduction of oir. Kiim, rather, shinui be'etzem hamhus. It's really a changes be'etzem hamhus in the reality itself. What are you relating to? What is your experience here? The re-iya v'hasagah, because re-iya, sight, v'hasagah, and comprehension, hareihem mechulakim be'etzem mahusam. They are different, they distinguish be'etzem mahusam, not only in terms of to what extent you experience it, but be'etzem mahusam and on a fundamental truth of what they stand for. Re-iya is an automatic recognition, realization. Like I said, you are inside the room. You don't have to look at things. You don't even have to identify what's there. You feel whatever belongs in the room is there. That's Chochmah. That's re-iya. In hasagah, everything is brought there in order to serve a certain purpose, a distinct purpose for that thing. These are categorically different experiences totally. in terms of Elokus. Re-iya, you are an insider. Hasagah, you're an outsider. Okay, let's continue. Towards the end of the third line from the bottom. V'im noimar, if we should say, the madrigas atachteina shebechachma, that the lower madrigas in Chochmah, within Chochmah itself, hey, bebchinas seichel v'hasagah, they would be in the realm of seichel v'hasagah. In Chochmah itself, the lower madrigas of Chochmah as are in the realm of seichel v'hasagah. In other words, within Chochmah itself, you know the things through a seichel process rather than being related to it directly. In Chochmah. And that would be the source of Binah. If we should say that, Harei zeh shinei hamahus, this clearly represents a change in mahus, a change in fundamental truth, legabe madrigas ha'olin shebechachma, relative to the higher madrigas of Chochmah. Shehein lemailo meyinyan seichel v'hasagah, where the higher madrigas of Chochmah are above the principle of the whole concept of seichel v'hasagah. Like we said, Chochmah, we'll still elaborate much deeper, but at the moment, Chochmah is an insider. He does not know things by observation. Therefore, it's completely above the seichel of Hasagah. Does not need to go through a process to recognize that there is something there. It's part and parcel of that reality. So we are saying that the high madriga of Chochmah is l'mayla min hasagah. The high madrigas of Chochmah are going into the level of seichel hasagah. V'zeh iyef shel leimer. Okay, the bottom line. V'zeh iyef shel leimer. This is not possible to say. What's not possible about it? What's not possible about it is as follows: Shemadrigo achas, that in the very same and one madriga, or element, or inyan, it should allow for a shinei hamahus, a change of reality itself. The shinei hamahus is applied as it manifests the madrigas aprotim in the individual states of that inyan. Like we said, between the Chochmah, the high madriga of Chochmah, the low madriga of Chochmah. It's all Chochmah. It's madriga achas. Within madriga there is higher element and lower element. Within that, the change between a higher level element of the Chochmah and the lower madriga should be a shinei hamahus, should be a fundamental difference, not a change, a relative change of miyut ha'oir, reduction of oir, but a fundamental change. That is not possible. Because within, if it is one entity, everything within that entity correlates to the other. Let's continue on top of that, just to keep moving. Because the principle of miyut, of reduction of the oir, is rak only masha oir mismaid. It consists only in the fact that the oir is reduced, and it does not express itself begilui in a forthcoming manner. But it's the very same truth. Coming back to our Mashalim. We said that to illustrate Chochmah would be like being inside the room, and then inside the room is of course the host, and then there is a induction of oil. The host is turned away from you, or the host is talking to you. When you are inside the room and the host is there, he's turned away from you, do you have to then logically recognize, oh, you're in the presence of the host, like Binah does? Nothing. You are in the presence of the host. But there is less interrelation, less in communication. But the reality is directly known, like Chochmah knows things. Not like Binah. You don't have to kind of convince yourself that he is there. When he is absent, or when you're outside the room, then you have to know that this belongs to somebody. But inside the room, no matter what reduction of oil it is still the same truth, the same Chochmah. Therefore, to say that the whole difference between the seichel level of Chochmah and the essential in Chochmah is only in reduction of oil. That does not explain the situation, because this reduction of oil represents a change in mahus. Between seichel and etzem is a mahus difference, like we are demonstrating from this motion. I want to elaborate a little bit more on the principle of re-iya. Of sight. We're saying that there is a categorical difference between hasagah and re-iya. Although in re-iya we're also observing that which is observable, the outside. So what's the difference between hasagah? What's such categorical difference between hasagah and re-iya? In hasagah, you are reconstructing this concept in your own mind. You're not really connecting to the concept itself. You're constructing logically, you're rebuilding it just like a carpenter builds a table. Re-iya is a completely, totally different experience. Totally. Re-iya attests that this is for real, this is there in reality. And what does it mean it's there in reality? It's not just a show, it's there in reality. What is the difference between there in reality and a show? I want to take this a little bit off. We'll see clearly this in you. We know that the world is a godly creation. A godly creation means that it was conceptualized and brought into being from a state of not being. Therefore, it has the element of being because it was preconceived. It has to be there. There's a godly imperative for it to be there. If we look at the world like the idiocy that the world has developed on its own, then you're looking at a surface deep existence.
That's cool. It wasn't even plugged in. The light one was plugged in.
It's not for real. There is no basis for its being. When I realized this Indian, I thought to myself, here's a clear point that demonstrates it. We have the principle of tznius. The principle of tznius is a very important principle. To the extent that tznius has to be maintained in public and in private. And in private should be private. Those areas where a person must be private by himself also has to maintain things from tznius. Why? Imagine if one would perceive himself having created himself, what's the point of tznius? Why is he hiding? Tznius is clearly a demonstration that there is a higher significance to my being than my physical presence. If not for that, there would be no tznius. And if one perceives that he made himself, there's no point of tznius. What is he hiding? That's all. The only reason is this chitzonius. This demonstrates the difference between re-iya. When re-iya, what does the re-iya see? Re-iya sees not what there is to see. It sees what is being shown, what the Creator is showing him. He relates to the inception, to the Creator insight. Why is it there? Why did the Creator create it? That's re-iya. Coming back to that which is lately became a big discussion, from Heidah. Heidah, it says, Heidah is moed al ho-emes. Emes cannot be defined. What is emes? What is emes in fact? Emes is, it's there because of itself, and the only way for you to relate to it is moida. You accept it. This acceptance is a phenomenal, it's an imperative and phenomenal significance. Because of this acceptance, you can have Chochmah, you can have re-iya, you can have everything. If you look at things and you doubt, does it exist or not, there's no way you can relate to it. That's why it has to be moida. As we explained, that in Heidah, the difference between Heidah and Chochmah is, Chochmah has an element of personal conviction, of personal recognition. Heidah does not. Heidah is simply accept what I'm being shown. Because it's emes. Emes is something that you can only accept. You cannot define, you cannot understand it. It doesn't come from any place, it's just emes. Okay. So Chochmah is a direct beneficiary of this emes. The reason that Chochmah can see things, they think that you can see things, is because the background of this which you see, there is an emes. This is why you see it. This is the difference between hasagah and re-iya. Okay. Okay, let's go back inside. Did we follow this? Did we understand what we said? Yeah?
I understood what you were saying.
No. What's going on? You're coming back? Yeah. All right. So the Rebbe says to say that within the same element there should be, as a result of reduction of the REBBE, there should be a categorical difference. It's not possible. But what is possible to say? That within the same madrega, within the same reality itself, the oil can be reduced from one madrega to the other. The madrega's approach is amongst the different levels within the same madrega. But not that they should constitute and result in a shine hamhus, in a categorical difference. Gentlemen, I can't teach like this.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to use them tomorrow, MarCheshvan. It's ridiculous. If it's too much, say it's too much.